Every day when I wake up in the morning, I see the sky and I think about the things that you've made, all the beauty and your glorious showing, yeah. It never bores me to look at the ocean. The waves are crashing, the water spraying up in my face. I look above and all the seagulls are soaring, yeah. We've got to overcome the darkness so we don't get caught in the middle, between the hopeful and the heartless. So, hello, good day, good morning, I just can't stop smiling, because today is a brand new day, and all the darkness and the pain is just fading behind me. Oh Lord, what a beautiful day. All the planets surround me, the way they orbit just boggles my mind, the way the sun keeps on shining, yeah. We've got to overcome the darkness so we don't get caught in the middle, between the hopeful and the heartless. So, hello, good day, good morning, I just can't stop smiling, because today is a brand new day, and all the darkness and the pain is just fading behind me. Oh Lord, what a beautiful day. There's nothing to fear, it'll be okay. It's the day that the Lord has made. It's the day that the Lord has made. There's nothing to fear, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. It's the day that the Lord has made. That the Lord has made. It's the day that the Lord has made. That the Lord has made. So, hello, good day, good morning, I just can't stop smiling, because today is a brand new day, and all the darkness and the pain is just fading behind me. Oh Lord, what a beautiful day.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Live with Doug. We are thinking through God's Word together. Glad to have you all along with us. Good morning, William. Yep, bass slide. That's cool. I like when musicians pick up on things like that. Good afternoon, Rob, there in the UK. All right, are you having tea when the rest of us have God's nectar coffee? Mike says, I would like to join, but I'm in a conference call. Well, hey, just turn us on, man, and give the whole conference Hebrews. What could be better than that? Zoe says, happy to be here live, encouraged by these studies, especially in light of difficult circumstances. Well, I'm glad to hear that. That is so much of what the book of Hebrews is about, isn't it? Giving us courage to persevere. So glad to hear that it's encouraging to you. CM says, no wonder I couldn't find you. You changed your time. Yeah, man, it's been a few weeks. Where you been? Very good. One more thing before we jump into the study. We are winding down our sale, our Cross to Crown sale. We have lots of John Riesinger books and a few others on sale for $1 plus shipping, and we will wrap that up on Friday. So if you haven't gotten your second or third order in, do it. We've got Tablets of Stone, But I Say, In Defense of Jesus the New Lawgiver, a book called Ministry of Grace, which is a book of essays written in devotion to Dr. John Riesinger. He wasn't a doctor. And of course, Abraham's Four Seeds. And, buy some for your church. Buy some and give them away at that price. That's pretty cheap. So anyway, check that out, crosstocrown.org. And you've got a couple more days to get on that sale. All right, so we're in Hebrews, and we're in chapter 6. And speaking of the call to perseverance and staying true during hard times, that's really what's going on here, especially in terms of distraction and deception away from the gospel. And the writer here is saying, hold on. Hold on. Remember God's promises. Now, think about what a promise is. A promise is, it's, in the same category as taking an oath or swearing. We sort of use the word promise as just a way of saying, no, I really mean it this time, don't we? When our children were young, we did not allow them to say, I promise. We wanted to teach them, Jesus said, don't swear by anything, just let your yes be no, yes and your no, no. And one of the ways we wanted to teach that to our kids was we wouldn't let them say, I promise. So if they were going to try to reassure their friend that they really would give them a toy if they let them have a bite of their cake, we wouldn't let them say, I promise I'll give you the toy. Just say, I'll give it to you, and then keep your word. Because we wanted to instill both Jesus' teaching there and just the idea that when you make a promise, when you take an oath, when you swear something, God takes that seriously. Several examples in the Old Covenant, right? Of rash vows, of people making vows and God saying, okay, I'm going to hold you to it. When God makes a promise, it's a sure thing. But it's not here yet. I mean, by definition, a promise, an oath, swearing is contingent on future fulfillment. A promise ring, those kind of things, right? Well, here in this passage, we're going to see God himself swore to do something. And Abraham believed in that promise, and he was faithful, and he persevered in the face of all kinds of opposition and reason to doubt. But he stayed true, he stayed faithful, and then received what was promised. And that's the example the writer here is using for the Hebrews. It's hard. You are facing persecution, and you're starting to waver, but remember what was promised, and remember what it will mean if you hang on and finish the course. So, verse 11 of chapter 6 says, and we desire that each one of you show the same diligence so as to realize the full assurance of hope until the end. And you may guess that word end is from the family of words telos, which I've been telling you again and again means what? What is the English idea behind this Greek family of words telos? Somebody tell me in the chat there. Realize the full assurance of hope until the telos. Why? So that you will not be sluggish. Yeah, Rob got it. Goal. We want you to realize the full assurance of hope until the goal, until you've achieved the goal. You're not there yet. Keep going. Yeah, good job, William. So that you will not be sluggish, but imitators of those who, through faith and patience, inherit the promises. What does it take to inherit the promises that God makes? Faith and patience. He tests us all the time. Makes these promises and then says, do you trust me? Are you going to keep following me even when you can't see the fulfillment of those promises yet? He doesn't just give it to us. And now he brings in Abraham as his example. For when God made the promise to Abraham, since he could swear by no one greater, he swore by himself, saying, quote, I will surely bless you and I will surely multiply you. All right, you probably know what's going to happen now. We have a New Testament author quoting the Old Testament. And you know what you're supposed to do when you encounter a quote from the Old Testament. You are supposed to go back, look at that Old Testament quote in its context, and see what it meant there, and then try to determine why this New Testament author is quoting it here. So that's what we're going to do. This is a quote from Genesis 22 and God's promise to Abraham. And notice that here in Hebrews, it says when God made the promise to Abraham, since he could swear by no one greater, he swore by himself. Do you ever think about God swearing? kind of a shame that we have allowed this term swearing to become a synonym for profanity. And there's a reason why linguistically and etymologically it has happened that way, but don't lose sight of what to swear is. It means to swear an oath, to take an oath, to make a promise. All right, so Genesis 22, we're going to see God's swearing and not profanity. Here's what it says. Now it came about after these things that God tested Abraham. Now, again, just pause there for a moment and think about that. This is Genesis 22. In Genesis 15, and actually before that, in Genesis 12, God calls Abraham and he makes huge promises to Abraham. I'm going to bless all the nations of the earth through you, Abraham. I'm going to make your name great. Kings will come from you. And anyone who blesses you, Abraham, I will bless. And anyone who curses you, I will curse. Do you remember what happened right after God made that promise to Abraham? Kings come up against Abraham, and Abraham does not trust God fully. He hands his wife over and says, she's my sister, because he's afraid these kings, because of Sarah's beauty, are going to kill him and take her. And what does God do? He judges those kings. He curses those who curse Abraham, even though Abraham's faith was still kind of weak here and being molded and shaped. And then later God says to Abraham, look out around you. This land I'm going to give to you as far as you can see in every direction. And look up in the stars in the sky. Can you count them? I'm going to give you more sons, more descendants than there are stars in the sky. And Abraham is an old man, very old, past childbearing years. His wife not only is old and past childbearing years, but she's barren. She's never been able to have kids. And God keeps making this promise to him that you're going to have more children than there are stars in the sky. And Abraham's thinking, hey, could we start with one? You keep promising me millions and millions. How about one? Could we just have one child? And you remember the whole story where he takes Hagar and has a child through Hagar, Ishmael, and God says, nope, that's not the one. Sarah's going to have a child. Finally, after all this time, Sarah gets pregnant. She has a son named Isaac. Finally, there's one son. The promise is still there to have innumerable sons, but there's one. And now God puts Abraham to the test with this one son. Let's look at the story again. He said, Abraham said, here I am. He said, take now your son, your only son, whom you love. Now, if you have children, you know how much you love them. And there's something about a father and a son. I have one son, and I love him. I don't love him more or less than my daughters, but there is something about a father's love for his son. But Abraham's love for his son is not only the normal, natural love, but this is the chosen one. This is the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham. The entire destiny, the entire hope of numerous descendants is all wrapped up in this one son, Isaac. You see that? So it's more than just the filial affection. It's also God's promise. It's through Isaac. Through Isaac will your children be named. So he says, take this one, Isaac, the one you love, your only son, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I will tell you. What? Everything seems wrong with this, doesn't it? Everything seems wrong with this. Are humans allowed to offer their children as burnt offerings? That doesn't compute. And how is God going to make good on his promise if this chosen son is dead? By the way, the writer of Hebrews will answer that question later on in Hebrews, but we'll hold off there. This is hard at every conceivable level. This causes our mind to go haywire, our affections, everything. This doesn't make any sense. What does Abraham do? He rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son. And he split wood for the burnt offering and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Abraham trusted God and he obeyed. I dare say none of us have been put to a test like this. On the 3rd day, Abraham raised his eyes and saw the place from a distance. Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the lad will go over there, and we will worship and return to you." Abraham took wood of the burnt offering, laid it on Isaac his son. He took in his hand the fire and the knife, so the 2 of them walked on together. And then, the worst. Isaac spoke to Abraham his father, saying, "My father." He said, "Here I am, my son." He said, "Behold the fire and the wood, but where's the lamb for the burnt offering?" Can you imagine what Abraham feels when he hears that question? There's that scene in Lord of the Rings, in the movies, where do I have the right scene in mind? Gandalf. I just remember the Gandalf's face. One of the twins, I think it's Pippin, volunteers for something, and Gandalf just gets this saddened yet sort of pleased. I don't know. There's some expression on his face. I shouldn't have brought it up because I can't remember. But there's a scene that comes to mind when I see this. And what does Abraham say? God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. What did he mean by that? Was he expecting a replacement for Isaac? So they walked on together. Then they came to the place of which God had told him, and Abraham built the altar there and arranged the wood and bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Fathers, how do you do that? What faith? He trusts God so much at this point that he puts his son on the altar, gets the fire ready, and he's going to sacrifice his son. Again, I know questions rise in our minds here, but don't let those questions steal away the point. Abraham stretched out his hand, took the knife to slay his son. How much faith and trust do you have to have in God to take your only son whom you love and the means of the fulfillment of everything God has promised and raise the knife to the air, ready to kill this boy? But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, "Abraham, Abraham." And he said, "Here I am." He said, "Do not stretch out your hand against the lad and do nothing to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." God says, "You've proven yourself. I know it now. I see it. This only son, your beloved son, you are willing to kill him because of your fear for me, fear of me." Then Abraham raised his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. Just as Abraham said, right? The Lord will provide. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him for a burnt offering in the place of his son. Now I'm tempted here to go draw some parallels there to Christ. It's so wonderful, isn't it? But let's get back to our Hebrew story. So that's the background, okay? And I need to go on because this is the part that the writer quotes. Abraham called the name of the place, the Lord will provide, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it will be provided. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, by myself I have sworn, declares the Lord. By myself I have sworn, because you've done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son. Indeed, I will greatly bless you, and I will greatly multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens and as the sand which is on the seashore, and your seed shall possess the gate of their enemies. In your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So God swears by himself that he will multiply the seed of Abraham. So the writer of Hebrews pulls that together as an encouragement for these people to hang on. So let's unpack what he says here. God swore by himself because he couldn't swear by anyone greater. Think about how swearing works. We don't give a lot of credence to this in our day, especially in the West. But for most generations of human existence, swearing by the gods was a mode of accountability. If you and I both believe that there is a God or gods who will see what we're doing, and by invoking their name in some kind of an agreement or oath, if we both fear that breaking that oath means we're going to provoke the wrath of God, then that swearing means something. That's why here in America, you would put your hand on the Bible in a court of law and raise your hand, say, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. What's the intent of that? If I don't tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, may God deal with me. Right? So I swear by God. If you do that, you are saying, I want God to deal with me if I'm unfaithful to this vow or this promise. Because there are certain things that there's just no way to keep people accountable. We enter into an agreement and we want something. If you don't have the opportunity for some kind of collateral, where if you fail, then I get your car, your house or something. If it's just honor and we want something higher, we swear by that which is greater than us. That's why it's so silly that people would ever say things like, I swear on my mother's grave. Well, if your mother's in the grave, she can't hold you accountable. That doesn't mean anything. I swear, I cross my heart, hope to die, stick 1,000 needles in my eye. No, all that's just silly. But swearing in the presence of God means something. But if God's going to swear, who does he swear by? Who outranks him? Who can hold him accountable? Nobody. So what does it mean when he swears by himself? See that here in the text? Since he could swear by no one greater, he swore by himself. And then the writer goes on, for men swear by one greater than themselves, and with them an oath given as confirmation is the end of every dispute. So if you take an oath before God, that's the end of it. All right, I'm going to trust God to deal with you if you break your oath. But who does God swear by? Who holds him accountable? I think what it's saying is God swears by himself, meaning I will hold myself accountable. I will destroy myself if I don't keep this promise to you, Abraham. Now, again, that doesn't make sense to us. God can't really destroy himself, but he's sort of bringing the full weight of who he is. I will stop being God. I will abandon my deity if I don't do this, I think is the implication here. Now, that's not theoretically possible, but if you're Abraham, for God to say, I swear by myself, by my own character, who I am, and I will destroy myself, just like I would destroy a human who takes an oath in my name but doesn't keep their oath, I will destroy myself if I don't keep this promise. If you're Abraham, that's a huge promise. That means something. And you could take it to the bank. So he swears by himself, I will surely bless you and I will surely multiply you. Not surely the way we use it. Surely it's going to rain today. Surely the Cardinals will be better this year than they were last year. I'm from St. Louis, so just go with me. That's not what we mean, right? We mean kind of a vague wish when we say it like that. But surely, to be sure is to be certain. If you are the surety for someone else's loan, that means you're on the hook for it. You will pay for it. I will surely, it is a sure thing. It is certain. I will bless you and I will multiply you, Abraham. Abraham passed the test. He was willing to kill his son. He trusted God and believed the promises so strongly that he was willing to take the life of his son. And then he obtained the promise. In fact, what we now know in the new covenant, you and I are the fulfillment of this. Yes, Abraham had innumerable biological descendants, but the ultimate fulfillment is the church. He received the promise, having patiently waited. So imagine if you're this first century group and you're under threat of persecution and people are threatening your life, they're threatening your job, your well-being in every way. And then this writer comes along and says, hey, remember Abraham? What was he willing to give up and endure for the sake of receiving the promised hope? He was willing to give up his son. Are you willing to hang on in the midst of all kinds of suffering and pain in order to receive the promises? It's worth it. God's testing you. Pass the test. Be like Father Abraham. And God has promised, and as he'll go on to say, that is our sure hope, the anchor for our soul. Does that make sense? Isn't that amazing? Beautiful picture. Something that should motivate us no matter what opposition we encounter. Rob says, ENG, I mean. I don't know what that means. Yeah, Peter, thank you. Yeah, it's when Pippin volunteered to serve the steward of Gondor. That's that you know that look, right? If you've seen the movie, you know that look that comes over Gandalf's face. It's that's kind of what I was thinking of. All right, we're gonna call it a day there. Remember this when things get hard, and hold fast to the end. All right, friends, we will see you tomorrow, Lord willing. Have a great day.